No problem. But the reality of it is life happens. And Ron, we really appreciate you being here. I want to say welcome to everyone. This is October 14th. This is the Enriching Gifts Education call. As I said, we do these calls each and every week, every Wednesday, with our hostess with the mostest in the background, who is so dedicated that he's hopping into his vehicle to do these calls. And I know he does that quite often, whether he's on the road or in a resort somewhere or hotel. It doesn't matter. He's just dedicated to his craft and to making sure that we all get educated here. So really, really appreciate him. Ron, I want to say welcome to you. And if you're not ready, that's fine. Take another few minutes. I'll connect with everyone online, but just want to say welcome and yeah, you're tired, but you're here. So thank you for being here.
I'm ready to go.
Okay. So I don't know if there's anything you wanted to share with everyone tonight as far as updates and or if there was a topic you wanted to cover, if you just want to open it up and let the call be organic and field some questions and see where it goes tonight.
Well, I do want to kind of cover again a little bit of what we went over for President Trump's treatment for COVID, how he had such a fast, miraculous recovery versus a lot of people. And then the other thing is I went through, remember James from Australia sent me that carnivore diet thing? I definitely have a bone to pick with him, and I definitely am going to talk about that tonight, that high-protein animal flesh diet. It just irked me to no end when I started going on the website and reading all the way dating back to dinosaurs and caveman and history. And there's a few things that he just, I don't know if he's just that dumb, but there's a few things he just forgot to admit to or omitted from that whole website that I want to kind of bring people up to speed and let them think a little bit on what is going on with that before they go jumping into another fad, another high-protein diet. So I am going to talk a little bit about that tonight.
Okay.
So
awesome.
Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to kind of go back and backtrack a little bit from a couple of weeks ago when President Trump went into Walter Reed Hospital for his treatment of COVID-19. And I was trying to think of what the heck the name of the drugs were, the two drugs. One of them is Regeneron, and that's the artificial plasma. That's actually antibodies that have been taken from people that have already survived COVID-19, and those antibodies through Regeneron, and that's the name of the drug. The company that marketed that, it's a genetic engineering process. And if you guys remember when we brought out Telezyme and all that other kind of stuff, and I was talking about genetic engineering, everybody hears that word and thinks, oh my gosh, it's such a bad thing, almost like GMO, and they're completely separate. It's a science. It's a cutting edge science. It's where you can split molecules, split genes, things like that, and completely re-engineer them. Like, I'll give you a perfect example, and I always use this as an example. Most people don't realize this, but almost virtually all insulin on the market today comes from a genetically engineered E. coli bacteria. It's engineered to mimic identical human insulin. You can't tell the difference between the two, even at a completely broken down molecular level. But that's the benefits you are able to achieve these kind of results with genetic engineering. So genetic engineering can be bad as good, and it just depends on how you want to apply it. So I just want to straighten that out first of all. So you get these antibodies. Now you can mass clone them, and you can even engineer them to reproduce themselves even faster. That's why they're going to be able to get into these vaccines and things as they come out with these tens and hundreds of millions of doses and stuff. Probably, I would guess, by middle of January to next March. They should have enough manufactured for just about every person in the United States who wants to get a vaccination. But that's how they do it. And then the other drug, I can't think of the doggone name of it, but it's a cocktail. It's a mixture of a whole bunch of different stuff. And that actually helps to boost up your immune system. And the other thing that they completely forgot to disclose on the call with Mark Siegel when he went over every single ingredient was vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is what helps your body make red blood cells in mass quantities. So if you're having trouble breathing, it's a great way to get more oxygen into your body. A lot of blood doping like what the heck was his name? The Tour de France guy. He had testicular cancer. It's on the tip of my tongue. Can't think of it. Lance Armstrong. He got all of his medals stripped for blood doping, because that's when you take these high amounts of blood transfusions, what you're taking into your body is just billions, hundreds of billions of red blood cells. And each one of those red blood cells is going to increase oxygen, which is what gives you, a person, your daily energy levels. That's determined by oxygen, not by nutrients. And so one of the things that they did to help him, because he was having trouble breathing when he went in there, that's one of the reasons why he went to Walter Reed, because he was starting to have problems breathing. So they give him B12 injections, and that just mass produce red blood cells. So even just literally 3-4 hours later, you would feel better with a blood transfusion or a good high dose B12 shot. So, and then I'm going to go over the nutrients one more time, because I just want to make sure I didn't leave anything out, because I did spend a lot of time on this week, so I could get it right for tonight's call. So they gave him vitamin D, and there's 5,000 IUs of vitamin D daily. What does vitamin D do? Vitamin D doesn't really do anything directly to influence or affect the immune system, but what vitamin D does is it actually allows to carry calcium into the body. It's not merely absorbed, it's actually carried into the cell structure. And that has everything to do with acidity, alkalinity, efficiency of overall functioning of every single cell in the human body. That's how your body is able to alkalize, is because of the presence of calcium in the bloodstream and in your body. So vitamin D, you can absorb calcium. It's hard to absorb it, but you really can't utilize it in any kind of a cellular function without vitamin D as the carrier, or it's the driver. You got the horse, but you don't have a driver. Well, vitamin D is the driver. It's going to point and absorb, help your cells assimilate calcium into the cell structure. So that's vitamin D, B12, calcium, as I just mentioned. They had aspirin, and it's an 81 milligram aspirin. They had melatonin, and I cannot find anywhere the milligram dosage, but I wouldn't suggest taking in more than 10 to 15 milligrams of a good quality melatonin. Otherwise, you'll find yourself sleeping for days probably. And I went through that one time where I actually slept for 2.5 days off of a 25 milligram melatonin tablet. I just was up and just couldn't sleep. So I thought, I'll just pop one. And I don't remember, it might even pop two, but I went to sleep on a Monday night and woke up a Thursday afternoon, and my work had called and left several messages, and I didn't even hear them. So melatonin was one of the other ones. And that's pretty much about all that they, zinc. They gave him zinc, and I can't remember the dosage on that either, but I'm thinking somewhere probably around 20, 25 milligrams, because zinc is the mineral that activates all immune system cells. And when I say activate, that's the wrong word. It's actually the mineral that controls the enzymes that regulate the activity, how fast an immune system cell would function. And that's what zinc does. That's why when you see the cold and flu season, you're going to start seeing zinc in everything. Zinc in lozenge, zinc in Pepto-Bismol, zinc this, plus zinc that. And that's why, because it's a great vitamin for the immune system, the mineral. And so that's kind of all I wanted to bring everybody back up to speed. I cannot pronounce that other drug they had, but the one is Regeneron. That's the synthetic antibodies. But it worked extremely well. You can see him out, and it's only been 5 to 6 days since he's had this whole diagnosis, maybe a week at the most. But he's fully recovered, out there running around, no problems, and he's deemed not even transmittable. So he can't give the virus to anybody else either. So, and it hasn't even been 14 days. I think it's only been maybe 10, maybe at the most. So anyway, he's doing very well, but I just want everybody to kind of know that you might not have access to the drug. You might not even want the drug unless you actually have COVID-19. But the reason this is kind of really got me motivated, because Monday this week, one of our very good friends up here in Glasgow, Montana, actually was diagnosed with COVID-19. She's in ICU right now. Within 48 hours, she was on a ventilator. And that's the only thing keeping her alive. So it hit home. And I just think it's important for everybody to know what to do to strengthen their immune system, because we can strengthen the immune system. Your immune system can protect you against COVID-19, SARS, Spanish flu, anything else that would potentially make you sick or take your life. We've got Steromax, which will dramatically increase the size and the activity and the overall efficiency of functioning of the human immune system. Not just one aspect, but the entire immune system, all cells that make up immune system systems. And then you've got the enzymes. One of the biggest things, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this when we get into this carnivore diet crap here in a second. But one of the biggest things that most people don't realize, and certainly that company marketing this carnivore diet didn't take into account for any of this. And I just like to know what kind of research they actually did. This is some guy, this is an individual talking about some of his past history, his family's genetic problems and this and that. And, oh, look at me, I can do this and I can do that. And, well, hey, when I was back 40, 50 years old, I was still hiking mountains. I could walk 45 miles through the mountains to get out to get a tow truck to go back get my younger brother's pickup that he drove off the side of a not really a cliff, but he drove off an embankment and fell about 40 feet into a tree. So I had to walk 43 miles into town in the middle of the winter. It was like only 22 degrees, and we went out there, it was like 50. So I wasn't really dressed for 22 degrees, but by the time I got down and stuff, and I survived. I didn't catch a cold, and I was very much physically capable. So to go back and start saying your personal story is okay. But when you're trying to perpetuate that personal story of yours is all you need to turn the world loose onto a carnivore diet, because that's what the caveman's lived on, that's what we've been living on since pioneer days and this and that, that's just totally irresponsible. Like I said, I've got over $40 million over the last 30 years invested in clinical trial and scientific research. That's responsible. But this other website, it just really rubbed me the wrong way. And the more and more I read, the more and more deeper I got into it, the worse and worse my stomach is turning. So, but like I said, I want to get back to, you could have this wonderful, great immune system, but if you don't take and use enzymes, by the time you're 35 years old, you're going to notice your health starts to dramatically change and decline. It's harder and harder to get out of bed without aches and pains. It's harder and harder to maintain that level of activity at your work or whatever physical activity you're doing for your hobbies. It's harder and harder to maintain your overall quality of life. And that starts about the time you're 35, 45 years old. Definitely by the time you're 45, you're starting to see things, you're not as big, you're not as muscular, you don't have the ability to stay up and party all night and drink all day and just go crazy like you used to in your teens. No, your life is really starting to change, and you notice your health isn't just what it used to be. And the reason most people suffer from that is because they don't take into account your body's losing its ability to produce enzymes to digest your meat, flesh that you're consuming. And all of that incompletely, poorly digested meat, flesh is going to make its way into the bloodstream. A lot of it does, but it's not digested into a usable amino acid form. It's sticky, it's mucousy, it's like glue, and it just surrounds everything in there. Your platelets, they bind together, allowing for cholesterol to start to build up, that incompletely digested sticky protein, which causes your platelets to stick together in the first place. Now you're accumulating and producing plaque that lines your arteries, your vessels, and inhibits blood flow and things like that. But worst of all, you're literally putting glue around every single red blood cell. And they're just aggregating together in these masses called erythrocyte aggregation by the millions. And that stuff can get so bad, you can just see multi-layers, layer after layer after layer after layer of fibrinogen, which is an inflammation protein indicator in the blood. And you can see all of it. I've seen it in the past, and just the older you get, the worse it is, and it's consistent in everybody. I've never ran into somebody 60, 70 years old that said, oh, I feel great and I'm wonderful, and boy, I feel like I'm 20 again. No, you don't. And if they get to feeling good because, well, I'm doing pretty good for my age, and what people don't realize is you could be feeling great regardless of any age if you knew how your body actually functions. And you start compensating for some of these things that most people are not aware of. And they're simple little things, but they are metabolic, biological facts. And number one, for every year you live your life from birth to death, on average, every decade, every 10 years, your body's going to produce 8 to 10% less digestive enzymes for your process of daily digesting your meals. And at some point, by the time, usually it's 38 to 42, if you got great genetics, you'll probably get away with it till 45, 46. But the average person that has a death age of 72 to 74, which is pretty much in most Americans, by far the majority, 38 to 42 is that magic number where your body is going to produce less than 50% of the enzymes for the job of your daily meal digestion, as opposed to what it did at age 15. And if you're not taking additional enzymes or completely altering your diet, that is going to plug up your immune system. That's going to plug up all your red blood cells. It's going to lower your oxygenation. It's going to suppress the activity of your immune system's ability to function and protect you. And there's no coincidence. There's no, well, geez, we don't understand this. We're wondering why. I understand everything. And I know that sounds cocky, but there is very little with the human body that I don't understand because of all of the years and decades of research and around the world that I've been. This is avoidable. It is correctable. And we're living in a time where I'll even admit, if we go back to way back in March, I said, this is just a little bit worse than the regular normal flu. And there's about 36 to 48,000 people that are going to die from it. And yeah, it might hit 67. Well, we're over 210,000. So it's even a little bit worse than I actually thought it was. But it's nowhere near as deadly as the Spanish flu that killed like millions and millions of people right here in America. But they're still finding out, and I'm still learning. These droplets can remain in the air. These virus proteins and stuff can remain in the air for literally hours and hours. So, and then the other thing, this mask wearing, that's been a big topic here lately. This mask wearing, now they says, well, the mask really doesn't protect you. Fauci came out just the other day and started saying that. So all these mandates, we're getting fined thousands of dollars. This is all political crap. This is a way for government and special interest groups to make a lot of money off of us ignorant fools that are called general public. And I've always said, and if you listen to me on these calls, I've always said I wouldn't wear a mask because it really doesn't protect you. And if you really want to know the absolute truth, there's a much higher possibility that a virus is going to enter your body through your eyeball sockets, not through your nose, not through your mouth. Because your mouth has saliva and different enzymes that will actually break down a lot of the foreign proteins, even viruses. And your mouth, well, you're exhaling every other breath that you take, so there's really very little opportunity to get it in through your mouth unless you're kissing somebody or really making physical contact with somebody with your mouth. But by far, and Dr. Fauci and several other people from the CDC, if you're going to be that worried about you have older parents, grandparents in the house or around you, wear a complete covered mask. And the one that flips down versus the one that flips up, the one that flips down from the head down is much better than the one that flips up because your eyes are still exposed. Whereas if you wear the helmet, it's like a headset, and then it flips down. It's got a big styrofoam that seals the mask from your head. So there's nothing going to fall down, whereas the flip-up mask, where it flips up from the bottom of your chest up to cover you, your eyes are still wide open. And if those droplets are in the air, they can still enter through your eyes. So always use a flip-down mask, a full face mask, as opposed to the newer flip-up ones. Because those can be worn all the time, and I'm not sure. I think they said it was more comfortable, the flip-up ones, but no, if you're understanding how a virus can enter the human body, you don't want to have anything open above your eyes if you can help it. And those face shields, the big kind of half moon dome plastic that covers the bottom of your jaw all the way up to your forehead. It's like a welder's mask. It just flips up and down, but it has a big thick styrofoam around the top of the head for the band that fits on your head and the mask. So when it's down, there is nothing exposed from your eyes up. It's only from the bottom of the mask down. You got to excuse me for just a second here. I'm out in my truck. I had to move out of my garage, so that's what that was about. But anyway, so that's my whole thing, and that's the end of the COVID conversation. But you should take precautions, especially for if you're around older people. And when I say older, I'm talking about people with compromised health, diabetes, cancer, or in their 60s, 70s years of age, people that are very susceptible to that. So that's all I wanted to say about that. And does anybody have any questions or comments about this so far before I get into this carnivore diet? Anybody?
Yeah, Ron, this is Dover here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, talk about hitting home. A buddy of mine who's in Las Vegas, his back started hurting him, lower back, and so he went home. He wasn't feeling too well last Thursday. Over the weekend, he just had off and on chills, no fever, no cough, no loss of taste or smell, and just aches. And so breathing was fine. Make a long story short, got his test back yesterday, and he tested, positive for COVID. And then as we're on this call, his wife, who got tested as well, she came back positive as well. So it's just fascinating how this thing mutates or the symptoms, if you will, change, whether you're asymptomatic or not.
Right.
It's just
correct.
Weird.
Yeah, well, that's like President Trump. He had a little bit of problem breathing, but everything else, no fever, no this, no that. So it affects each person differently. And I'm telling you, the reason it affects different people differently is because of the efficiency and the strength of each individual's immune system. And you can compromise your immune system with just one or two meals. So it's what you eat versus what your wife ate versus what your family eats. All these little things can definitely tweak and screw things up real fast. So it's important that you really do not only your due diligence with your diet, but also with your enzymes, with your vitamins, with the probiotics, making sure that you're not only building a strong immune system, but you're actually giving it the ability to function for what you're trying to build. Because like I said, you start eating this carnivore diet and you're a middle-aged person, you might have a tremendous genetically gifted immune system already. Never get sick, just like me. Never, ever, ever get sick. But you start eating a bunch of meat flesh, and you're middle-aged, boy, I'll tell you what, 2-3 meals, especially if you have a larger meal, you can compromise your immune system to where you can catch a common cold or flu. You can catch a common allergy, an environmental allergy that's floating out, even though it's not springtime or typical allergy season. Your immune system is the only thing your body has that protects you, that gives you a good quality of life day to live. That is it. Your nutrition supports the cellular body, supports the cell's ability to function. And again, you can have a healthy body, but it can be compromised very, very quickly when you suppress the immune system. And there's nothing that's going to suppress the human immune system worse or more than a poorly digested meat flesh diet. So, yeah. So did anybody else have any specific questions about anything that they might need to do or look at for this whole COVID thing at all? Anybody?
Hello, Ron.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a quick question here for you, Ron, in regards to whey protein. For people that choose to have whey as a supplement for their, workouts or diet or whatever, first and foremost, whey protein, how good of a product is it as a protein source? And number two, how much enzymes should somebody be taking with that whey protein that's optimal?
Okay, I'm not quite sure exactly what you just asked me, Son. Said something about whey protein. What was your
So
question?
whey protein, let's just say somebody wants to supplement with 40 grams of whey protein, as a powder, right? Um,
Okay.
twice a day, twice a day. So first of all, is that like a good source of protein for somebody, or and the second thing is how much enzymes is sufficient to break that whey protein down so that you're absorbing it quick and not spiking your sugar either.
Well, yeah, great question. So first of all, one of our regular size capsules, this is not the starter, this is the regular plant enzyme 270 count bottle. One of our capsules, and you're talking about an already halfway processed protein, one of our capsules can break down as much as there's 28 grams to an ounce. Okay, so
Okay.
think about that. You asked about 40 grams, 28 grams to an ounce. And one of our capsules can break down as much as three protein powder three capsules can break down about 70 grams of protein is what it equates out to. So if you're taking the digestive enzyme and you're just specifically dealing with protein powders, it'll break down, one capsule will break down about 70 grams of protein. Whereas if
Wow.
you're eating a piece of prime rib or a piece of steak, one capsule is only going to break down about 2 ounces of meat flesh protein per capsule.
Right. Okay, great. So the best way to take it is so even if it's just 40 grams, just take one capsule and you're good to go.
Yep. You definitely should be able to go, because that's just barely a little more than an ounce and a half. If you think 28, 56, so it's about an ounce and a half of protein. And it's already processed to where it's already in a powdered form and stuff. So your body really doesn't have to break down all that muscle tissue trying to get to the protein to convert it into amino acids. Now, you also asked about how much should a person take of protein. If you're a healthy person and you just want to kind of supplement your diet with a protein shake in the morning or in the evening or something like that, the ideal ratio is about 1 gram to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight.
Really?
So if you weigh, say, like 200 pounds, then you should be looking at about 200 grams. And again, if you go 28 grams to an ounce, just round up to 30, you're looking at about 5 ounces. So you're looking at about 5-6 caps. I'm sorry. Again, if you're talking about the protein powder, you're only looking at about 5 ounces for about a 200-pound person. And that's per day, by the way.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Minimum, you want to take 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And
now,
optimally, if your diet doesn't have much protein in it, then you want to go 1.5 grams per pound of body weight.
Now
Because
that's
I
for
know
normal
as a
people.
bodybuilder and stuff, I used to consume about 5 to 6 grams per pound. And I used to weigh about 300 pounds when I was bodybuilding and I won't say competing, because I was only in 2 competitions and I won both of them. I was so flipping big, nobody even look at anybody else. But anyways,
Okay.
so that's the way that all goes out.
The one last part of that question was the whey protein in itself as a quality protein source. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's probably as good as anything else. I'd say if your body tolerates it, go ahead. Just like any other protein. You have animal flesh protein. People have allergies to it. You have different grains of protein. People have celiac to wheat and stuff. So a lot of the wheat proteins, a lot of the vegetarian proteins, people have allergies to that. But always remember, most of the time, over 99% of all allergies that a person might experience is because your body doesn't produce the exact enzyme that breaks down that particular protein in that food source. So your body has an inflammation reaction to it. Whereas if you're taking our digestive enzymes, you shouldn't have reactions to anything. Shellfish, gluten, lactose and dairy products, you shouldn't have any problems with that once you've been on the product, our digestive enzymes. When I say the product, our digestive enzymes, for 4 to 6 weeks. After that, your body should tolerate just about anything you want to put into it. And it'll actually be usable nutrition, not some foreign allergen that's going to cause a whole bunch of inflammatory problems.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else have any last minute questions real quick before I move on to this carnivore diet? Nope. Okay. All right. So, James, are you on the line tonight from Australia? Is James with us tonight, Dover?
He is.
Yes, I am, Ron. I'm listening.
All right, buddy. So here we go. Because I watched that thing top to finish 4 different times to make sure that I kind of got the thought process of what he was trying to do and everything. And didn't want to beat up on him too bad unless I had to. And it's time for me to have to. And, one thing I want to caution everybody about, because he talks about, we go back to the caveman days, we go back to the 10th, 11th, 12th century, we all go all the way back to Roman days when the big Roman armies, that's all they had to eat was off the land, off the land, off the land. Well, let me tell you something. I went and did a lot of work about the Old West days and the Daniel Boone days, and I can go all the way back to the 1400s, back in the king and queen days as well. And let me just share some simple little facts if this guy bothered to do any homework and really was a historian at all. Royalty, the kings and the queens and all the royalty, the senators and everything back in the Roman days, most of them were dead in their 30s and 40s. Why? Remember the old story about Robin Hood? He got caught shooting a deer in Nottingham Forest, and they were out to hang him because he shot the king's deer. Because royalty ate meat flesh. They ate animals, the goose, the chickens, the deer, the pigs. The peasants didn't have that kind of money or had access to that kind of a food. So they were grain eaters. They were fruit eaters. They foraged through the forest and lived off of plants for the most part in what they grew in their fields, whether it was corn, whether it was wheat, those kind of things. They didn't have the luxury of having meat. And all you had to do was go back and look at King Louis and all the different kings and queens over the centuries. None of them lived beyond the age of 55, 57. Those are some of the oldest ones. A lot of them were dead in their 30s because of the plague. Remember the plague of the 14th century that killed off over half of Europe. Well, why did other people survive, and who actually survived that? Over 90% of the people that survived the plague in the 14th century, they called it the Black Plague, were peasants. Peasants. They didn't have the meat flesh diet. So there's how the meat flesh diet compromised their overall health when a plague and pandemic came upon them. They weren't healthy, and that's why they died. That's a lot of really in-depth research. I spent years and years looking at this. So now let's fast forward to the old pioneer days and stuff. Well, yeah, they sure did. I remember watching Daniel Boone movies, and it was even popular. I used to do it myself. I'd cure hams with my dad and stuff when I was a little kid, and just packing in salt water. Salt's an oxidizer. And if you couldn't soak it in water for 3, 4, 5 days in heavy salt water, then you pack salt around it. Why? Because salt oxidizes, therefore it kills all bacteria, viruses, mold. It kills anything. It's a very heavy oxidizer. So that's the way you preserve fresh meat, even in warm weather. Didn't have to be freezing cold, but they always buried it in their little food shelters and stuff. It'd be about 5 feet down in the ground, and anybody knows anything about prepping and stuff, all you have to do is be 6 feet below the ground, and it's 55 degrees year round, regardless of how cold, how much snow, how much water. It doesn't change. 5.5 to 6 feet down, the temperature does not change in the earth any deeper than that until you get down close to the earth's core. But it's 55 to 58 year round. That's why people, a lot of people, especially up here, up by Glasgow in this area, they actually build their homes into the side of a hill, and then they bury it with about 5 feet of dirt. And the only thing that you have going into that house is a door. It looks like you have to open up the door and go into the side of a hill. And you can't believe it, but it could be 50 degrees below zero up here, and their heating bill doesn't even run $35 a month. Doesn't take anything to heat it, doesn't take anything to cool it, because it's already 58 degrees. So, I mean, if you think about that, you only have, even when it's really, really hot, and it's really hot outside, who wouldn't mind a 58, 60 degree interior home? It's a little too chilly for me, even on a hot day outside, but warm it up 10 degrees to 70 and you're comfortable as can be, 68 to 70. Oh, well, it's a little bit too chilly in the wintertime. Well, to warm it up, what do you got to get? 58? Okay, let's do 65, 68. It's not even 10 degrees from what it is year round. So it's a great way to save a lot of money, and a lot of people don't even know this. I'm shocked at how many people don't know this. But there's how the old Daniel Boone days and stuff, that's how they preserved. And again, they only ate meat in the wintertime when the vegetables and the fruits and stuff weren't readily available. You always see, if you go back to the Missouri Breaks or some of these old Westerns and stuff, back to the 1800s, back when the Civil War was in the mid-1700s, even in Abraham Lincoln in the mid-1840s and 50s. All you've seen with fields everywhere, fields of corn, of wheat, of barley, of this, of that. So they did eat off the land back then. They took it to market. Yeah, a lot of them made some money that way and stuff. But if you listen to this guy and look at this website, he's trying to tell you, oh, just go ahead and eat meat. Our ancestors have done that it's the best thing you can do. No, it's not. And through that guy's ignorance on that website, not one single thing that he mentioned took into account the natural deterioration of the human body through the aging process. Nowhere on that website, because I can tell you, he didn't do any research whatsoever. Nowhere on that website does he even talk about the loss of the ability to digest and process muscle tissue, meat, flesh as you age. So he's totally even ignorant to the loss of the ability of the human body to digest as you go through the aging process. And that kind of irresponsibility and that kind of hoopla is going to only get people in serious trouble, even cause heart attacks, strokes, all kinds of knee and joint problems, all kinds of health problems. You cannot live from an all meat flesh diet. And the one thing that drives me thoroughly nuts is the fact that he says, oh, well, somehow meat flesh is far superior than a plant-based food. There's somehow more amino acids in meat flesh than there is in the natural garden or nature foods. That is an outright lie, period. Anybody who knew Zane, Frank Zane was his name. He was back in the 60s, right along with Jack LaLanne. Jack LaLanne was a vegetarian. For all the people that don't know him, you'd have to be in your 60s, in the 70s to even remember him. But he was the guy who swam the English Channel, not once, but twice. And he did it every 10 years. And he did it 3 or 4 years before he actually passed away. The guy was, I believe, 92 or 93 years old when he passed. And he looked like he was probably in his late 50s. Perfect shape his whole life. And the one thing about that, he's a vegetarian. Frank Zane, Mr. Universe, back in the real early 60s, late 60s, early 70s, he was a complete pure vegetarian. And he was massive. He was one of the biggest bodybuilders there ever was back in them days. So don't tell me you can't build it. And I know for a fact, because Dover, here we go. We're going to talk about Tom Mano again. I always like to bring up Tom because I put him through so much hell half the time. And all we did is argued about his belief systems that just didn't serve him. You could believe it, but that's not the truth. This is not based upon facts. Because if you want to sit there and tell me, but, oh, well, geez, the only way you're going to get big is to eat meat, that used to be his belief before he ran into me. And I used to go spend so much time out at the Phoenix Zoo that I'd go out to the zoo and I'd be sitting there at Ray's cage. Ray is a big, huge silverback gorilla, about 470, 490 pounds. And I literally saw that gorilla lift himself from off the ground to his perch with one single finger, just like an orangutan. If you've ever spent time in a zoo and you watch some of these animals, it's like, holy crap, how do they do that? I mean, they've got to weigh 100, 150, 250 pounds. And that gorilla was the biggest one of the gorillas ever in captivity. Ray was. And I used to go out there and they would never let me feed him or anything, but I'd always watch him. They didn't feed him bananas. That's the Magilla gorilla thing on TV. Most gorillas don't eat bananas. What their favorite food is leaves and bamboo shoots. And they'll literally tear the bamboo shoots apart and they eat that little white stuff that's really soft, the kind of core of it. And that's what they'll eat. And they'll eat upwards of half their body weight a day in vegetables. Chimpanzee will, on the other hand, go out and kill another animal and eat it. But a gorilla is pure vegetarian. And a gorilla is easily 5-6 times bigger than a chimpanzee, even a full-grown one. So I sit there, and one day Tom and I got into a pretty heated argument in the gym over at 32nd Street Gym. It was at Gold's. And I said, Tom, you know what? I'm tired of arguing with you. I don't want this to become a big issue. I just want to show you something. Because and then you're a smart guy, so I'm not gonna let up. You're gonna have to explain to me how this is all possible. So I took him to the Phoenix Zoo, and the first place I went is parked their butts right over in front of Ray's cage. And I said, now I want you to watch this guy. When he comes out here, I just want to sit here for about an hour, hour and a half and watch him. But pay close attention to what he eats and what he's fed. And that little incident changed Tom Mano's belief and changed his life for the next 10 years easily, if not 15. Because this is when I first met Tom and within the first 2-3 years of hanging out with him. I said, this whole belief system, you got to have all these grams of protein and it has to come from meat. Flesh has more amino acids than plant food does. This is just total BS. Total BS. You look at this gorilla, he'll never touch a piece of meat ever. And look at how strong that thing is. And he'd be bouncing around, rolling around. He'd grab the fence by his one hand and just literally start pulling himself up that thing like it was nothing. And so I said, well, if meat flesh has to do this, how the heck is he going to get that big? And I guarantee you, you put your arm in there as big as you are, he'll rip that thing off without even breaking a sweat. He wouldn't even have to tug twice on it. He'd rip it right out of your shoulder. He could rip you apart just like you were just eating a cob of corn. So that's the facts. And this idiot on this website that thinks that, oh, well, you've got to eat nothing but meat, and it can't hurt you. It will kill you. It will be the main focus of your disease, the main cause of your illness and suppression of your immune system. And you're going to notice that more and more and more and more as you age. So I really didn't enjoy going through there. I had a lot of nice videos and, oh, look what I can do. And he's walking through the park and walking through pools and walking through forests and doing this and doing that. And well, good for him. But that's just totally irresponsible to say that that's every single person on this planet and that in no way a plant-based diet, it can be anywhere near as nourishing as a carnivore or an animal flesh diet. Totally the opposite. Garden diet or plant-based diet is much more easily digested by about 80 to 90%. You're not going to sit there and use up the metabolic body's enzymes, your organ functioning enzymes, to compete for digestion because your body can't produce enough digestive enzymes. So when the food's still sitting there and your body can't produce enough digestive enzymes, your body's going to start robbing from your metabolic organs and the enzymes that carry out those functionalities to try to do the finishing job of digestion. That ain't going to work. It ain't going to happen. Not without severe consequences as you live and age. And that's the problem with that whole carnivore diet. It's just a bunch of crap. And by the time I got done with it, in fact, I think I wrote a letter, made a comment to the actual website corporate office. In fact, I don't think I did. I know I did, and it wasn't a nice one. So I wanted to challenge them on exactly where did they get their information from, because I can point to this, that, and I must have went on for 15 minutes naming different sources that are totally contradictory what they were trying to say. So thanks for bringing that to my attention, James. It gave me something to do this week, and boy, I'll tell you, I was really ticked off when I got deeper and deeper into it, to the point where I left a pretty detailed email for them guys to take a look at and think twice about before they start perpetuating this any further than what they have.
Yeah, hey, Ron, I was going to say to you, look, like you, I got pretty annoyed about what this guy says, and I guess he pitches it at certainly as a fitness community, and he pitches it at
Correct.
people up to 35 years old. But it's what he doesn't realise is exactly what you just said, that he doesn't know. And when I read some of his stuff, that's all he eats. He eats nothing else. He reckons you don't need fibre. That's a no-no.
Well, and here, let me just say something right there, James. You do need fiber, and you're not going to get it from muscle tissue meat. Meat has no fiber whatsoever. The only place you get fiber is from plant source foods. And just like John Wayne, when he died, he had 22 pounds of undigested meat flesh in his colon and his GI tract, in his bowels. 22 pounds. And that's exactly where colon and intestinal and all your GI tract cancers come from. Lack of fiber, too much mucus buildup, too much cholesterol from your animal flesh meals, oxidizing, creating thick layered walls all the way through your entire GI tract. So you lose the ability to absorb, and eventually you lose the ability to crap and eliminate all that toxic junk. So you get worms, you get parasites, you get all kinds of damage, including cancer. And that's where all of that kind of crap comes from. So like I said, and I never did hear back from him, but it's only been a couple days ago. But I've been waiting for him to sit there and call me back, because I definitely have a whole lot that I'd like to put into his head without having to chop it off too quickly. He might be able to open to learn something. But the marketing of what he's doing is, like I said, it's just totally irresponsible. Even at 32, 25, 35 years old, you're putting all of that junk in there. Like I said, it only takes the age of 38 to 42, and your body's already producing less than 50% of the enzymes it did at age 15. So you're already well into the process of starting to accumulate all that toxic junk. And again, your body doesn't need fiber. That is just one ignorant SOB that says anything like that. Your body definitely needs fiber. The National Cancer Society and the American Heart and Lung Association both say that you could reduce your risk of heart disease and cancers by as much as 85 to 90% just by taking in 35 to 45 grams of fiber every single day. That's still published. Don't believe me? Go to the National Cancer Society website or the American Heart and Lung Association website. It's right on there. One of the big things they say that's part of those two disease categories is the severe lack of fiber in the daily diet. So here you come along, some ignorant idiot wanting to claim he's the expert and outdoes the American Heart and Lung Association or the National Cancers. Oh, you don't need that. Really? Really? I'd like to know why you think that. What kind of credentials do you have to say anything like that? And by the way, I couldn't find any credentials on him. It's just a story he wants to tell. Oh, look what I'm doing with my life. Well, good for you. But don't perpetuate that crap into everybody else's life, because most of it is just based on BS and nonsense. That's what I found out by the time I got to the end of the website.
Yeah. Ronnie, his background is a psychiatrist, and he did research with cardiology, and I think he went back and he puts his MD name, license name in front of his name. So I'm gathering that's probably where he's come from. But I'm really glad I brought this to your attention, because I just think that there's a lot of missing information that he's not telling people, and people are just so gullible to jump on the bandwagon.
Oh, I know. I know. It's just like that high protein diet. It's been around forever to lose weight, lose weight, lose weight. And yet people don't even talk about or discuss the consequences that most people go through after they've been on that stupid, crazy yo-yo thing for the 10 years. My daughter called me and she goes, Dad, what do you think about this diet, this keto diet, really? And I was like, well, if you're young enough, and you're in your early 30s, you could probably get away with it, but you want to cycle on and off of it. It is absolutely nothing you should try to stay on for month after month after month after month, just until you reach your weight loss goals. By then, the damage is done. I said, your body can tolerate it. It's really hard on the body, but it can tolerate it 2 weeks, 3 weeks on, and take a week off, and then to go back to 2-3 weeks on, and then take a week off. Cycle on and off of it. Do not stay on it, because it'll literally destroy your body in just a matter of a few years. So, but yeah, that's it. And that fad diet just isn't going away. Everybody's keto nuts. It's the next high protein diet. And yeah, it's effective at losing weight. It gives you more energy. Why? Because your body's metabolism has to kick up to such a high degree let me go back and say something. There is no process in the human body, not one single metabolic or even system functioning activity, that will consume more calories in the 24 hours of a day than the digestive process. So anytime you're going to do anything to initiate and kick up the digestive process, your body is going to be super hyper in burning up calories. And you're going to feel that. That is going to be energy. Because what is you do when you burn up, when you digest food? You're actually burning calories. So the digestive process will definitely kick up your energy, because nothing takes more energy to process a food or a meat flesh diet through the human body. All of the rest of the entire cellular functioning body doesn't even use half. In fact, your digestive process can consume 50 to 70% of all calories in a food source just doing the job of digestion. 50 to 70%. So that's why it's really important to supplement with digestive enzymes, so your body doesn't have to use up all of the calories in the food source just to digest the food source. And if you want to go a step further, that's just a regular muscle tissue, meat, flesh meal. But the true fact of the matter is, all muscle tissue, chicken, beef, turkey, pork, lamb, any kind of a muscle tissue, meat, animal, flesh meal is catabolic. You're going to use up all the calories in the meat flesh. That's why you cannot put on weight. That's why it's really good at losing weight, the high protein muscle tissue meat flesh diet. Because your body literally is going to metabolize all the calories that's in that meat source. And then it has to go to even further get enough calories to process it completely through the body. Now it's going to go to stored fat and break stored fat down and use the calories from stored fat just to finish processing the meat through your body. So that's why all meat flesh is a catabolic food. That's why it's great at losing weight, because there's no calories left over by the time the digestive process is done to absorb into the body, to convert to fat or anything else. It's all gone. And the sad thing is, you're using up all this energy, and you're even using energy that the body has stored, and most people aren't even efficient enough to break it down to where they're getting the amino acid yield from the protein source to actually rebuild the muscle tissue and the vital organs that it robbed all of that calories from. It's just not that efficient. And that gets worse and worse and worse as you age. So again, it's been around. It's a fad. It's been here forever. But you look at Dr. Atkins, the people that have promoted these diets. He died of a massive heart attack, or I think it was a stroke. Let me take that back. He died of a massive stroke. And when they did his autopsy and stuff, every single one of his arteries were completely clogged with plaque. That's the meat flesh diet, and that they literally fought tooth and nail, lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit by the Atkins Foundation, that information was not disclosed because that's part of his personal medical records. Well, people that, the whole company that promoted this, and by the way, the Atkins company almost went bankrupt and out of business back in the real early 90s over this lawsuit after he had passed away and stuff. So like I said, get educated, but go to a good source that you can trust, somebody that's done their due diligence, somebody that knows what the hell they're talking about, rather than just jumping on these fad diets, because these things will hurt you in the long run if you don't know what the consequences are, how they're affecting your body as you go through the process of consuming them. Very dangerous. And they're not healthy for anybody on a long-term basis. In times of starvation, hey, if I didn't eat for 3 or 4 or 5 days and I ran across a carcass that looked like somebody just killed it the day before, yeah, take a chance and eat it. It's better than starving to death. Or even deer hunting. I'm an avid deer hunter, pheasant hunter, goose hunter, duck hunter, elk hunter. And I love wild game and things like that. And I like meat just as much as the next guy. But I always take enzymes every single meal that I eat. Make sure that you got enough not only to digest, but to get the nutritional value out of that food source without expending all the calories in the food source trying to do it. So, but anyway, James, thank you. Like I said, I really appreciated giving me something to do over the weekend. And I tell you, I sitting at that computer, I really did get heated. I almost wanted to click on my webcam and kind of video it. But I thought, man, I don't want to see anybody see me this ticked off.
No, thanks for doing that, Ron. As I said, you talk about getting the right education, the right resource. Well, you get it right here. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions or comments about tonight's topics, either one of them, before we get ready to close out here? Nobody? Okay. Dover, you have any last minute comments for the call?
No, another great call, Ron. It was just a lot of valuable information, and I'm going to connect with Chris and share some stuff with him. So thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, yeah. And if there's anybody on the call that wanted to ask questions about cancers or any health issues or anything like that, now's the time to do that before we end the call. So does anybody have any questions regarding any kind of health issues? Please speak up now. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and end the call for this evening. Anybody? Okay, I'll just take that as a no. Hey, I had a great time tonight, everybody. Sorry I was a little bit late coming on the call. I just completely lost track of time trying to finish up some projects here before it snows. We're supposed to get snow up here on Friday. So I wanted to get this all winterized and buttoned up before that happened. Yeah. Sweet. Our high for Thursday is 29 and our high for Friday is 27. And our lows are down in the real low teens, 9 degrees and 12 degrees. So, and we're getting rain, so that means we're going to be getting snow, especially at those kind of temperatures. So have a great night, everybody. And again, Dover, appreciate you for moderating the call and being here each week as well. Just the same way that you want to thank me, I want to thank you as well. So have a great night, everybody.
Take care. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye. Yeah.